Hi
Cool.
everyone, welcome back to the Mandarin Blueprint podcast. I have with me another very special guest, Dom. Hi, Dom.
Hi, Luke. How's it going?
Hi, I'm great, thanks. Would you like to just tell everyone who you are, give yourself a little introduction, and I'm really interested to hear how you found us.
Okay. My name's Dom. I'm 27. I live in London. I work in market research. And I actually found you guys through the podcast.
Oh, great.
When I was thinking of starting to learn Chinese, I'm sure we'll talk about the reasons for that. I thought I'd just dip my toe into it. Maybe, well, I was thinking of going to China, so I thought, well, I'll try and learn the basics. Hello, how are you? Can I have one beer, please? So I thought I'd find a podcast I can listen to on the way to work and back. Just can't remember what I searched, learn Mandarin podcast, and looked at a couple of them. Saw you guys, and yeah, and just from the very beginning, it just struck me as something very different, and also exactly what I needed. It sort of spoke to my brain and how it works.
In what
So
way
yeah,
do you think?
Well, okay. So I say I found you guys through the podcast. I had done a little bit of Duolingo before that, and there was a Coursera course from, I think, Peking University that I did two lessons of.
I've seen those, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd used Duolingo a bit for Spanish and didn't really stick with it for very long. And I did this online course, which was exactly what I expected, really. It was like being in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Is that a good thing?
no.
No. All right. Some people like it,
Yeah, I think the first lesson was hearing someone say, hello, nice to meet you, what is your name? And then you watch two people say it back and forth, and then you say it. And then in the next lesson, you learn how to say, here are all the things that you'll find in a kitchen. And there's no,
right.
There's no way of reviewing it, which is obviously a big part of your course. And yeah, when I learned languages in school, that was exactly how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I passed the exams okay, but I can't speak French
You
or
can
German now.
regurgitate the information pretty much,
Yeah.
but that's all they require, really, isn't it? So essentially, the problem you were facing that caused you to search for a Chinese course was, I mean, what were your goals? What problem were you having? You were just sick of the Coursera course, and you were looking for something a bit more.
I'd been trying these things for a couple of days, literally, before I found you guys.
Right.
As soon as I decided, I'd always wanted to go to China just to travel. Been to Japan a couple of times, and all over the world. And I thought the thing that was holding me back with going to China is I thought, well, if I speak no Mandarin at all, and they don't speak any English, or there's very little English spoken, I'm going to be sort of stuck on the tourist trail on a tour bus with a hotel rep who speaks a bit of English, and I'm not really going to enjoy my time like that. So if I can at least learn a little bit to get by, even though it's apparently very difficult, then I'll just enjoy that trip when I do make it.
That's exactly what I did, and it made my trip so much better.
Yeah. And I forgot what I was going to say after that. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry, I apologize. That might come back. How long does it take to learn a character these days with our method?
It's hard to say. I mean, in the early days, I really was taking my time over it, and it just taking several minutes, maybe 10 minutes, to really map everything out. I guess when you include the prop that you assign to it after, and the going through the actor and the set, it would be even longer. Now I've noticed there are a couple that just click immediately, and I'll still make sure they're embedded in there, and I'll think could this be any better? Am I going to forget any aspect of this? So I don't rush through them. So I guess once I see a prop, this is what it means, this is where it is, maybe a minute at its quickest, or more for the more complicated ones.
And you've been spending the extra time sharing your awesome, very, very well done scenes as well on the platform, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I found that really useful, actually, especially in the early days, to write it out. And it just makes you think about every aspect of it. And it sort of makes you want it to be a good scene if you're sharing it with people. So it just makes you think, you don't want to put a rubbish scene out there. So you just think, how can I make this a little bit, how can I make this pop a bit more? Actually, the first one I shared, I think was, Shane Warne. It was Sure, and it was Shane Warne, the cricketer, firing a magic wand at the door of 10 Downing Street in my kitchen or something. I must have spent ages on that one. And you said on the podcast, like, oh, Dom, you must have done this before if this is your first character.
Yeah.
And actually, I hadn't done this sort of memory palace stuff before. I'd heard of it, I'd read a little bit about it, but I never tried it. But what I had done is, because I started with the pronunciation mastery course, I spent 2 weeks doing that. During those 2 weeks, I was listening to the back catalogue of podcast. So I must have listened to about 20 episodes of you criticising and praising other people's scenes. I've got an ear for what works and what doesn't and what you need to consider. So actually, when it got to me making my own scenes, I sort of hit the ground running, as it were.
Right.
I found that really useful to have. Yeah, if anyone else is doing it that way around, which I guess a lot of people are, listen to the podcast while you're doing the pronunciation course, and then when it comes to learning the scenes, you'll understand them a lot better. And all this stuff about sets and rooms and why you need to pick memorable things and why you need to use special effects and stuff, sort of, you've already got a grounding in it just from passively listening to the podcast on your commute.
There you go. Comprehensible input does work, doesn't it? Awesome. So that's great to hear. And that's good to know that the podcast, that part of the podcast is still worth listening to for someone that's not on the course as well. Or at least maybe, you just sort of put it on, it sort of stays playing. But that's good to hear. What 3 parts? The reason I'm sort of, I want to make sure, because I know you're pressed for time today, aren't you? So I want to make sure we get through all the questions. So I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say. What are the 3 parts of the course so far that have made the biggest impact for you, and why?
What are the 3 parts of the course? I think having the structure. So when I was a student, uni, school, I crammed for exams and I wouldn't revise in any sort of particular structure, and that got me through the exams fine, but it didn't commit a lot of the stuff to long-term memory, and that's why I haven't learned a language before this. But having the blueprint, really having it all laid out, this is the next step you should take, just takes away so much of the work of thinking. If you commit to doing half an hour of Chinese every day, but you don't know day by day whether that's going to be read the textbook or watch a video or write out some characters or practice speaking or all the hundreds of different things you should do, then you're going to procrastinate and fall off the wagon pretty quickly. But I know exactly what I need to do. I have to do my Anki every day, and Phil sort of drilled that into me every 5 videos or something. You have to do your Anki every day. It's just stuck in my mind. So I have been doing that, and then most days I managed to go through the video course a bit as well and learn 4 or 5 characters. So that's one part of it. Having the map laid out for you is really, really helpful. It makes it so much harder to not do it, or when your motivation is low one day and it's midnight and you're sat in bed, I haven't done it yet today. It's so much easier to do it if you know what it is. And well, obviously, like the main components of it, the movie method, the Anki review system, and then once you have a grounding, the sort of comprehensible input system, this sort of 3 pillars, I guess. I'm sure there are other pillars. I mean that's the structure of the course itself. So I can't really say that's the thing that's helped me. So I guess one, the blueprint, the roadmap. 2 is kind of the idea that if you trust in this system, you will get there. And it won't be easy, and it'll take ages, and that's fine because you're learning a difficult language, and this is a sort of life undertaking. I'm not in any rush to get there. I'm not launching a business next year, so I have to be fluent by the end of the year. But like from pretty much the very beginning, I decided that if I just do this every day, I will progress. And it's like if you show up to the gym every day and stick to your calorie counting or something, you will be fitter by the end of the year.
Yeah.
When I took up running, I went from not running at all, did the Couch to 5K program, and then ended up running a 5K and running a sort of half marathon after that. But that had a very similar system of, if you just stick to this system, go out and walk for 30 minutes, go out and walk for 10 minutes, run for a minute, walk for 10, like every step is only slightly harder than the last one. If you just trust in this system, you will get there. So I think that's the other part of it. And then I guess it's fun. It's not like sitting in a classroom with 20 other people writing out characters 100 times and trying to say things that you don't know how to pronounce. It's great fun when you come up with a scene that's, has some lame pun at the end of it, and then you can comment it to everyone else. And yeah,
I love the puns. Thanks for the puns. Anyone that brings, I've got a big weakness for puns. There's a few people that are great at them on the course.
I'm always aware of like not making them too wordy, but I will sometimes add in a pun just as an extra line after I've hit the meaning, just because it.
Yeah.
No, if you're going to do it every day, it needs to be fun. You need to entertain yourself.
Yeah, and that's good to hear as well. And it's what exactly, I'm curious, what was it that made you think, or what point in the course, or was it the comments, was it us, was it the method, what made you think, oh, this is going to work eventually? Because that's not self-evident immediately, right? I mean, you have to build trust. And do you remember there was a point where you were like, oh, okay, this is going to work if I put in enough time?
I don't think there was an aha moment where it clicked. But I think from the very beginning, you lay out in your materials that if you learn these 600 characters or whatever it is now, you'll have these 1,000 words, which is 80%, and then you'll have your HSK 3 level, and you'll be able to read with a little bit of guidance and specified materials, and then from that point you're over the hump and you can just read and listen to stuff. Once you get to the hump, input will sort itself out and the grammar will sort itself out. And here's, like I said, a roadmap to get to that hump. And it's just learn a character, review it until it's committed to long-term memory, learn a character using a visual technique that helps to commit it to long-term memory, and learns all aspects of the character. Like it just made sense that if you do this until you've got X hundred characters, then you'll be there. Yeah.
It's fine. What results have you achieved so far? And what impact has that had on your life at the moment, or what will it have in the near future, do you think?
In terms of sort of tangible results, just started level 13 last night, so I'm just starting reading sentences. So here's one achievement is, I can look at a sentence that's entirely in Chinese characters. It's a very basic sentence like, I scare my son or something, or my son speaks. But I can look at that, and it takes me about 10 seconds to wrap my head around it, but I can read it and think, that says, my son speaks. Or my son eats with spoons, and so that's an achievement. The first time I did that and looked at a sentence and thought, I know what all of that means. That felt like a breakthrough.
And how long was it? You said it was a month before you could do that.
Yeah, I started about a month ago, and 2 weeks of that maybe was the pronunciation.
So 2 weeks, you went from no characters to being able to read a sentence all through?
From learning the first character to, I had a little bit of a head start by having listened to the podcast for 2 weeks, to, being able to read, a few different sentences now. And it is really difficult to read the sentences at this early stage.
Yeah.
But I really noticed last night that it was aching my brain to go through even just 10 sentences and figure out. I'm hoping that gets easier.
It does. Yeah. It's like anything. It's like it's like stretching. It's going to hurt when you do it that first time or the first 10 times, but then after once you get into it, it becomes, it becomes comfortable.
Yeah.
Quite quickly if you do it every day.
Yeah. The other thing that felt like an achievement, yesterday I sat on my desk going through my Anki, and I was just writing out the characters whenever it told me to write out a character. And more than usual, I was sort of focusing on getting the handwriting right, because I found that with the more complicated characters, the size of my characters just grew and grew and grew into slightly ugly messes. So I thought, okay, let's just focus on the handwriting a bit more. And then a couple of hours later, I just looked down at my page and thought, there's 50 Chinese characters there, and they just look really cool. And I know what all of them need, write them again. And then just do, like, what's the most complicated character I can think of? And it's like, sure, that's a complicated one. I can just draw it several times. And I just sort of leave it on the edge of my desk, hoping people would say, oh, what's that? That's another motivation for learning Chinese. It's just really cool.
It's cool. It is cool.
And speak, yeah.
Yeah. We all pretend that we've got higher ideals, and it's for business. It's because it's cool.
It's not supposed to be your primary motivation to impress people with it, but as a tertiary motivation, it is.
It's tertiary. That's a good word. Yeah. Absolutely. What were you skeptical about, if anything, going into the course?
I think about the course itself, there was very little, if anything, that I was skeptical about. When I opened up the Coursera course and listened to this, Chinese professor saying, this is how we say ni hao, now you say it, and now you write it. My skepticism there was extreme. I thought, I'm never going to stick with this. I'm never going to be able to listen to a Chinese person and understand what they say and just say it back to them. This just doesn't feel like it's going to work. And once you guys had, whether it was on your website or on the podcast, I don't know, once you sort of laid out your system, I thought, oh, this makes much more sense. This is about how to learn, not how to speak Chinese, how to say the things you need to say in the right order. This is, how do you learn? How do you memorize and acquire things? So it all made sense for me from the beginning, and I really wasn't skeptical about the course. I've heard some people say it's like, oh, what, movies, actors, sets, props, this is so much stuff to remember. How is all of this going to work? I guess maybe one point of skepticism is I thought, well, for a complicated character, you go through this process, it's going to take you 10 seconds to read each character, which is better than nothing, but am I really going to read fluently? But now, going through my Anki, you can notice characters on sight, and that's a great feeling when you see war and you think, oh, that's I. I remember seeing that character in Duolingo and thinking, that's the mess of squiggles that has the dot in the top right. And of the 10 characters we've seen so far, if it's got a dot in the top right, that means I. Obviously a terrible way to learn. But yeah, being able to, I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, being able to, notice those characters on site, sort of overcame that initial skepticism of, this is going to take ages to go through each bit. I guess, I maybe still feel a little bit person speak.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, I just jumped out of the meeting then for a second because I'm in my spare room. So can you just say that last bit again? You said, I suppose I'm feeling, I don't know if you remember where you were. Sorry about that.
Yeah, one point of skepticism that I've got, I think skepticism maybe isn't the right word, is it feels like a long way off that I'll be able to hear a Chinese person speak just at a near normal speed, maybe some dialect or another, and I'll just understand what they say and just say something back to them, even if it's in slightly broken Chinese. But that's the end. That's fluency. That's speaking Chinese. That bit. So it's okay to think, it's going to be ages until I get there. So no, I'm not sure I'd call that a skepticism about the course. And I haven't got into comprehensible listening inputs really at all yet. So No, I think is the answer to your question. I don't think it's about anything.
Awesome. Do you have any ways that we could maybe improve?
Do it. Not. I found this is just a little thing that I did that I'm glad I did. Is I went through all of my sets in one go at the beginning.
Right.
So because I listened to the podcast for a bit and I kind of knew how it worked. I knew, okay, you have these 13 sets, and each one needs to have 4 distinct locations that are hopefully pretty consistent with each other, and they all need to be memorable places from your life that you can easily imagine. And maybe it's just because I was excited about starting the course, but what I did is I just wrote down all 13 sets in one go, and some of them were obvious. But in doing that, it meant I rearranged some of them. So I thought, let's make that one Anne, not Anne, because then I can use this one for Anne, because that one doesn't make sense.
Right.
Then here's a set I really want to use, but it doesn't fit in with any of these, the spelling of any of these. So I'll just have this as my miscellaneous one, AO, and nothing for AO. And it was my, the theatre that I do some hand ram at. Thought I've spent a lot of time there. I know that space. I'll just make that one AO. And it took me a while to get an ANG one, and eventually I thought, move some things around, and I think I made my school ANG and then made something else AN. But I found it really helpful just to get that all mapped out and noted down. Then I went through the course. It didn't take that long. Yeah. But it means all of my sets now are really clear, with really clear boundaries within them.
Right.
And I've tried to stick for fourth tone. I've tried to stick to backyards wherever possible, and it's only for the ones that don't have backyards that I've used a bathroom. Because when I was thinking it through, I thought I've lived in a few cramped flats in London in the last 4 years, and they all have pretty identical tiny bathrooms. I thought, am I really going to remember the difference between that small bathroom and that small bathroom and that small bathroom? I can't really picture what they look like. So for those ones, I'm using backyards. And maybe it's too much to put that at the beginning of the course. It's like, right, here we go, lesson 12, map out all 13 sets.
We used to do that when we did the live class for many, many hours, hundreds of hours. We would teach this live to tweak it and practice it and make sure it works for real people and stuff. And that's what we used to do. We used to, like, at the end of a lesson, we would say, okay, go away and choose your 56 actors and your 13 sets and see you next week. And with a week to do it, people still occasionally would be like, oh, it's too much. Oh, I've got to do all this. And it would sort of cast doubt over the method, basically, and cause people not to bother. But then, of course, there are people like you who are very more sort of either trusting or more autodidacty, and just willing to just, okay, this looks like it's going to work. Boom, put in the work and just do it. Yeah. And there's also people that are just like, they feel the pressure, like they can't think of 13 places, and a bit more neurotic and stuff. So we spaced it out carefully over the course. But you know what? I think that we could possibly add in another little video that just says, hey, if you want, you can just choose all these now. I don't know if we have that written anywhere, but we could at least do a video perhaps to show that for the people that, because it allows people like yourself to like plan it out a little bit more. And I've just realized for the last 3 minutes, if someone's been listening to this and they don't know what Mandarin Blueprint is, they'll just be like, what the heck are these guys talking about right now? But trust me, guys, if you're listening, it does make sense. It does work.
I think the counter to my point would be, you get someone who's just signed up for the course, right, what's all this about? And then they get an hour into the course and they're asked to think of 13 places from their life, which either all have bathrooms or all have backyards, or have a nice combination of them. And hopefully most of them have got kitchens or something related to food that you can call a kitchen. And you just, whoa, this is weird and crazy. I'm going to quit this course. So in terms of holding on to people through the course, I think the hand holding you do is really good. And it doesn't feel like it hand holds too, if it feels like too much hand holding, you can just skip through. Sometimes you're going to make a movie that's a 6-minute video, and I think, right, I've got my movie. Here's someone talking about theirs, but they've got different props to me, so I'm just gonna skip this one, or skip to the end where you normally have some little tip about special effects or facial expressions or something, which can be quite useful.
Right. That's very useful feedback. Thanks, man. So one more question for you. Would you recommend Mandarin Blueprint? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
I would absolutely. I was half joking to a friend the other day that I was telling them about the course. And I've told lots of people about the course because it's just my new thing now. It's the thing I do every day is this course, and I love it. I think I'd probably, I don't think I've ever recommended a product more strongly than I've recommended it. Not the kind of person who recommends products or says, sign up to this, whatever. I noticed you had like some referral link or something. And I found that I really want to recommend this course to people because I want to find some, other person doing this course. When you talk, what did you do for this? What did you do for this? You just, you find something cool, you want to share it with people. But you almost don't want to use a referral link because then it feels like you're selling it to people.
That'd be silly. Well, yeah, I guess though, yeah, if it's your mates and stuff, you're like, but take this. You feel like you're, I don't know, like selling out or something like that.
Yeah. So I hopefully in 3 months, 6 months time, I'll have a decent level of Mandarin, or maybe I can speak a bit, and I'll say, when did you start learning Mandarin? And I'll be able to say some impressively small number of months ago. I'll say, wow, how'd you do it? And I'll say, mandarinblueprint.com. The proof will be in the pudding. But at the moment, I just strongly recommending it to people, boring friends over drinks by talking about, there's like 3 things. There's this movie method and spatial repetition.
Please don't try to explain the movie method to people. You'll scare them off. They won't bother.
I found that when I have tried to explain to a few people, and it's difficult. But I was doing a video just in my living room here, and one of my flatmates saw what I was doing and thought, and it was the character where you introduced the halberd, this obscure prop. I thought, what the hell? And we were in stitches, because it just made me reflect on just how weird this thing is. And I was explaining, no, this is a razor blade, and then that's a foam finger, obviously, because it's an adaptation of it. Oh no, that's a hand. That hand from the Harry Potter film where he grabs the hand? That's that. And then there's a samurai sword and whatever.
And your friend's just backing away slowly to the door.
And then we thought, well, what the hell is a halberd? We've now got Gary Lineker who's outside the Elsby's house, and he's fired an arrow, samurai warrior, and thought, oh, it's a halberd. And then we got stuck in a corner of halberd YouTube, watching someone teach us how to use the halberd. So I think now I have a really clear mental representation of a halberd. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, next scene, Walter White is in my office using a halberd to stab a hand with something, and learning the character of war.
That was a good one. I shared that. I was genuinely impressed by that one. A couple of them made me really crack up as well. That's great. So, I mean, that's it. That's a great interview, man. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'd love to do a follow up with you and see how you're doing in a couple of months. If that's okay.
I'd love to too. Yeah, let's maybe we can do at least a little bit of it in Chinese by then, if I can say a few more things.
Great. Will do. All right. Thanks very much, Dom. I appreciate it. Sorry, were you going to say something there?
No, I was just going to say have a lovely evening. Wherever you are.
Yeah, you too, mate. I really appreciate it. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video and you'd like us to help you reach literacy and fluency in Mandarin Chinese as fast as possible without all the headache of traditional learning methods, just head to mandarinblueprint.com to learn more.